Hey there, I'm Dr. Kara of KH Evolution. In this week's video, I'm going to speak a little bit about our emotions and stress, give you some essential oil support, and also talk about the overriding idea of frequency and how these elements play out through frequency. So first, I want to revisit the basics of frequency, and that is everything in our world, seen and unseen, is built on frequency, on energy. There is a frequency that is related to or that composes every aspect of ourselves, of other people that we see, and other aspects of the world. And so with that premise, what I'm seeing a lot of in my practice right now is this is overwhelming stress. We've been seeing that for a long time, but above and beyond that is being stuck in a revolving pattern. And what I'm finding is that the roots to these patterns are in past life. So they are in previous experiences or experiences that our ancestors have had. And we are unfortunately finding it difficult and uncomfortable to get unstuck from these patterns. And to be 100% honest, I think that it's because we're being called forward to cleanse and purify and release energy that is no longer serving ourselves or our children or our children's children or the planet as a whole. And so in order for us to move forward as a whole of humanity and create greater peace, we have to turn inward, right? And we want to be looking at the inside out of how we can create change. And while missions and big lending of our service is incredibly important, and I'm not discounting that. What I am saying is when it comes to our personal growth and our ability to impact change on the planet, we want to look inward first and address those areas of stress and emotional discomfort. So our emotions are really energy in motion. So it's an energy that is within our field or within the energy field around a cell or an organ system, a glandular system that is projecting out a frequency that's no longer in coherence, in balance with the rest of the body, the rest of the system, and it's no longer in coherence with the peace of the world that we are all hopefully intending and working towards building. And so the energy work right now is around releasing and letting go of these stress patterns and these frequency patterns, these emotional patterns that have kind of plagued our subconscious. They play in the background, and a lot of times we don't even realize that they're playing or that they are a part of us. We can see them in the people around us, but we struggle to really recognize how they're playing out in our own world and how they're contaminating or negatively influencing. And when I say negatively influencing, really what I mean is making life harder. Because in truth, there's not really a negative or a positive, there is. And there is our perspective of whether this is in alignment with us and creating further balance, or whether it is out of alignment with us. So number one, I encourage you to take a look at the emotions that are coming up. There is an urgency that we've been feeling within ourselves that is probably making it a little bit difficult for you to feel patient. And you may be feeling as though you're at the start line and you're ready for the race, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and the race is continues to be delayed. And this is because there's a lot of unseen energy that's organizing on your behalf and on the behalf of the evolutional process of the planet and the people on it. So learning how we can be patient and trust is one of the critical pieces to really healing ourselves at the root of some of these aspects that are coming up for us. So I guess to really speak to it, if you're feeling impatient, then you're not alone, and you are you're right where you're supposed to be. And as I always say, ask Spirit for a little bit of guidance or a little bit of support in toning that down and having it feel not quite as intense for you. My puppies just picked up a toy, so you probably hear that crackling. They're playing a little game of tug of war. So I'll have lots of stuffing to pick up when this video is over. And those of you who have puppies can probably relate. All right, number 2. So let's make a commitment or an intention to feel those emotions, to acknowledge them. Brené Brown is a beautiful human being who's lent so much to our emotional maturity and understanding of how we interpret the world through our emotions. And one of the things that she speaks to is this idea of feeling the emotions so that we can identify what those emotions really are. There are core emotions, and when we identify with them and we understand them a little bit better, we are better prepared to interpret the world and interpret what's going on with us in response to what's going on in the world. And so this is a key piece to be able to move forward in the healing process of our emotions, is to be able to feel them and identify with them. It's not to get stuck in them. It's not to allow them to label you and define you, but it is to understand and recognize that that emotion is alive and well inside of you. And again, to recognize that that emotion is energy in motion. And so energy in motion for me means that it's trying to leave. It wants to leave if it's really, really uncomfortable. And our patterns and our beliefs and our resistance is making it harder. And so when we can feel those emotions and identify with them, it does open up pathways so that we can be in greater flow and less resistance. All right. And then number 3, I want to give you some essential oil tools that I think would be very helpful in helping to process emotions and just move through this week as we prepare to move into our first partial eclipse on April 30th. And I'm going to speak to this coming weekend here in just a moment. But my favorite essential oils that for the week that came forward to work specifically in these particular areas. First is Ylang Ylang. And Ylang Ylang is a wonderful, soft essential oil. It is floral. And I know that some of us have this love-hate relationship with floral. We either really, really adore it or we really dislike it. So if you're someone that dislikes it, but you really would like to gain the benefit, the plant intelligence of that essential oil, and then you can combine it with a root oil. And in this case, I'm going to encourage you to consider cedarwood. And I'll explain why here in just a minute. So Ylang Ylang brings this renewal energy to us through our inner child. And so if we have old patterns, old beliefs, or old energy that is struggling to be fluid within us and is also influencing how we interpret the world and how we approach other people in the world, Ylang Ylang can help us to dismantle or understand how our inner child is suffering, and lend us a little bit of movement and fluidity in dismantling those patterns or those hurts and wounds and pains of childhood or past life that have that are continuing to put us in places where we revisit the hurt or have to relive the hurt. And so Ylang Ylang is a powerful tool to help us look at that inner child aspect. All right, and then cedarwood, the grounding energy that cedarwood brings is through community. And so when I say cedarwood this morning, as I'm recording this, the imagery that comes up is like the foundation of a lotus flower. And so we've got all of these petals, which are coming out from this one core space and holding this foundation for so many different parts, so many different petals. And so for me, what cedarwood is doing when we combine it, particularly with Ylang Ylang, is creating this foundation of community, even a desire for community. We are all longing for community, and in some of us and some of our family dynamics, we're really nervous about that connection. You know, we're different people. The people that we used to be in community with are different as well. And so cedarwood lends support and guidance and patience and a stability when rebuilding that connection as we find our way with perhaps building new tribes. So it's very realistic that we may be finding that our relationships are shifting, and the people that we really love and enjoy spending time with and communicating with, that may be shifting. And so cedarwood gives us a little bit of comfort in respect to that. And along with this, before I move on to the next oil, I want to say to turn inward to yourself and just check in and make sure, or kind of see if you're giving yourself adequate permission to be experiencing community and freedom in these relationships. Sometimes it is difficult to let go and difficult to transform those relationships that need to transform. And cedarwood can give us that little nudge, that little support, and that permission that it's okay to honor ourselves. And that sometimes means a shift in the relationships that we are living out in our lives. All right. And then lastly, I want to speak about wild orange. Wild orange is a very beautiful and abundant oil. When you open the bottle and you inhale the aroma of wild orange, it opens, and it reminds us of how abundant we are in our own nature. And with abundance comes this level of acceptance and this honoring of energy within the people around us. And so we can really see how combining wild orange, Ylang Ylang, and cedarwood together can promote and create this very powerful plant energy that helps to heal the wounded child, create stability in this, as well as the stability in asking for help, and help us to feel that we are enough in this process. So I love these individual oils and then the combination of them together. So, whatever you're called to is right for you, and trust in that. Don't feel that you have to use all three, but do listen to your intuition and what you're being called to bring into your space. And then lastly, peace. Doterra makes a beautiful essential oil combination, peace. And I just think that it is definitely a oil right now that we could all use. So diffuse in your spaces, and certainly apply topically to bring in that element of peace and well-being into your own space, so that we can then allow it to pour out to others and the people that we touch. Now I want to speak a little bit to the weekend and the planetary elements that are happening, particularly the eclipse, and then our new moon, and just how these aspects are impacting our evolutionary process. So we are reflections of nature. We're a part of nature. And we are then also a reflection of it. And so when we have big shifts in our environment, the structure of the environment that we live in, so we have planetary shifts, or we have shifts with the moon and the stars, we are going to feel those shifts. And we're going to be invited and asked to integrate the energy from these shifts. So as we approach April 30th, we have a partial eclipse that's happening. And in general, eclipse phenomena give us an opportunity to clear our space, to slow down a little bit in respect to gaining clarity and making those shifts that we are desiring to make in our life. And so as we move into the weekend ahead, we also have the new moon. And so we have these two pieces coming together that are really huge promotions of change, right? So we have these opportunities opening up that are giving us this opportunity to move forward, to create from a brand new beginning, and to really step forward into what we've been working on, particularly since our full moon, but even more so this beginning of spring equinox, as well as all of 2022. So the momentum and the energy has been building, and I'm sure you feel it just as I feel it. And so as we come into the first eclipse of 2022, that's a lot of twos, and we come into the space of the new moon, which we have two new moons in April. So we have this huge push to really move forward into those dynamics that we've been kind of contemplating or thinking about, or struggling to decide if we want to commit to them or not. Or maybe we've had different aspects of our life that have pulled our attention to them, and that have been out of our control. And regardless of what it is, one of the things that we can do this week to begin to prepare for that experience is to pull our energy back into our heart space, and to ask through our third eye, through our intuition, what is it that I am supposed to see? What is it that Spirit is nudging me towards, that my inner voice is nudging me towards right now? And if we do this 3 times throughout the week, 3 different times throughout the week, number one, there's magic in the power of 3. There's a frequency to the number 3 that is magnifying. And so when we ask this question 3 times and we see what we get for answers, it will be a common thread. And it is in the common thread that we're being asked to look at the new moon energy, the eclipse energy, and align with that so that the doorway will open so that we can align with that. And in our alignment with that, we get to dismantle some of these old stories, and we get to really bring in another piece of our own personal sovereignty and our own personal freedom. And so that's a really simplified and big overview of some of the energy dynamics that we have going on here at this particular time. So you may feel that the intensity is building with a partial eclipse. We also have this concept of duality or polarity that's coming in as well, because we've got half light, half dark. We have and so we have this opportunity to really be shown or have illuminated within our life certain things that we've been denying or we have been trying not to look at, whether consciously or subconsciously. And so it's a great time to be paying attention and to follow through on those strong urges that we may be having in terms of our forward movement, in terms of taking action in a direction that we typically might not take action in, but really would allow us to express our gifts and our talents and our frequency, our energy out into the world. So I hope that is helpful and has resonated with you in some form or fashion. And if it has, I would love for you to leave me a comment below. I always love hearing from you. Some of you reach out to me directly. I appreciate that very much. I'm really passionate about mentoring people through their spiritual evolutionary process, as well as their process, their evolutionary path of regaining their physical health. So don't hesitate to reach out. In the comments below, I'll put a link to booking a discovery call in case you're interested in just connecting or reconnecting with me to identify a little more about where you're at and maybe interpret what spirit is calling you to do. And thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend if you think that it would be helpful. All right. Happy new moon, happy eclipse season, and stay strong and true to you. Be well.